Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Higurashi When They Cried. This music doesn't really fit the tone, but last episode we found out that the curse had claimed yet another soul. And this time around it was our dear friend, or dear and dear, I don't know about all that, but it was Tomitake-san, alright? This time around we're gonna continue and see where this story leads us. Sleepy. I'm usually awake once it's time to eat, but it doesn't look like I can do it today.
夕べ遅くまでテレビ見てたら眠くて。
But were you watching some of that Yakuza playthrough from your boy?
ケイちゃんが喜びそうな番組なんかやってたっけ？
ちょっと待て、勝手に想像して決めつけるんじゃね
え。男の子なら当然です。恥ずかしくないですよ。
Rika not patting my head only made me feel worse.
ちょっとこの昼休みは爆睡させてくれ。いや本当マジで。
あら、私が黙って見過ごすとお思いで。
邪魔したら怒る。すごい怒る。
This was just dreadful. Just so sleepy. I slumped my head onto the desk and drifted off into an afternoon nap. It seemed that Satoko had responded, but I pretended not to hear.
さとこちゃんやめなよ。ケイチくん寝ちゃった。寝顔かいい。
後でお持ち帰りしていいからそっとしときな。
向こうへ移動しましょうです。ケイチにうるさいと悪いですよ。
Rika-chan really is a good girl.
先生が来ても起こさないであげましょうです。
I take that back. The excuse that I did not sleep much last night because I was watching TV was a fucking lie. I was in bed the usual time, but because of that conversation with Oishi-san that afternoon, and I did not get much sleep. Just spending the day like this, it's almost as if the incident for Tomitake-san did not happen at all. It made me think, was Oishi-san just trying to deceive me? But it was probably the truth. One thing was certain, I couldn't speak to anyone about it. He wanted my assistance, but I really didn't know anything about it. If I knew I wasn't going to be of any help, I probably would not have listened in the first place. It ended with me again, regretting learning something I did not need to know. If I had never learned about it, I would, without a doubt, be goofing off with the rest of them right now. I couldn't help but resent Oishi-san for this.
それっていつから？
もう次の日にはいなかったって綿流しの晩に失踪したらしいよ。
Mion whispered to keep the others from listening, but I could hear it clearly. On the other hand, Rena's voice was even harder to pick up, but I could still tell that she was quite upset. It couldn't be. Are they talking about Tomitake-san?
さん、けなの？
わかんない。私の知る限りではね。
I would have to feign ignorance about this topic because I needed to keep it a secret. Rather than waking up and being forced to lie to join in on the conversation, it was much easier to just sit here and pretend I was asleep to listen in on their discussion. Wait, why did I have to pretend to be asleep while eavesdropping on my friend's conversation? The guilt stung.
で、他にもいるんでしょうか？
彼女がたたりにあったのか、鬼隠しにあったのかはわかんないけどね。
Onikakushi? Onikakushi? To be hidden away by a demon? What a mysterious phrase. I did, however, get the feeling that it meant nothing good.
いや、何にせよ、もう言ったよね。
お社様ならね。
でも今年は出ない。
バッチャと村長さんが話してたんだけどさ、今年は事前に警察と話がつけてあるらしいんだよ。何が起こっても 騒ぎにしないで穏便に片付けるって。
じゃあ、レナたちが知らないだけで、どこかで誰かが。
かも。
次は、レナ。
安心しなよ。レナはちゃんと帰ってきたよ。
でも、ダメだったんでしょ？
昔の話だよ。もうやめよ、この話。
Amidst the uncomfortable mood, both of them went silent. The entirety of the conversation was still a bit unclear, but few parts caught my attention. First of all, the term Onikakushi. To be demoned away. By the context it was used in, I would guess it's similar to being spirited away. I suspected that was what it meant because Tomitake-san and the woman, it really bugged me that I did not know her name, vanished after the Watanagashi. The next thing that stuck out was when Rena said, "There is another one, right?" Mion also said, "If it's Oyashiro-sama, yeah," responding to something. If it's Oyashiro-sama's curse, then there had to be 2 victims. Is that what she meant? Come to think of it, I remember Mion saying at the beginning that they did not know if it was from the curse or it was a case of the Onikakushi. It seems that the curse and being demoned away are 2 different things, and they were phenomena that were paired together. I recall Tomitake-san's terrible end. That wasn't something as elegant as disappearing. That horrendous end would be best described as cursed. Then the woman with him, it means she vanished because she was demoned away? What I do know is that there is normally an even number of victims of the curse proper. And the last point that bothered me was Rena. Rena was frightened. For what reason, I did not know. However, she knew something had happened. However, she knew that something had made her a potential target for Oyashiro-sama's curse. If I recall correctly, Oyashiro-sama would be the guardian deity of Hinamizawa. Isn't the guardian deity supposed to defend the citizens and drive out the invaders? If I recall correctly, yesterday Oishi-san said that originally the targets were the enemies of the village, but recently, there was no longer any distinction between them or regular outsiders. But if that was the case, then I would think I would be the more likely target, having moved here more recently than Rena. From her composure, I could infer that she was grimly certain that she would be next. I should probably relay what I had heard now to Oishi-san. Informing the police of what I heard by eavesdropping on my friends while pretending to be asleep. Look at this Keiichi-sama looking motherfucker. Keiichi out here having 6ix9ine as his role model. It made me feel terrible. As it should. It raised a few questions and left me with a bad taste in my mouth. Would it be better not to seek the answers to those questions? As I continued to learn more and more, it felt like I had fallen past the point of no return. I would definitely regret this one day. I would definitely regret this one day. I would definitely regret ever having learned any of these events.
先生が来るでございますわよ。ケイチさん、起きなさいな。
In the distance, I could hear the ring of the handbell signaling the start of afternoon classes. Yeah, I could not sleep at all. I hastily opened my eyes and raised my head up. It was in that moment when I leaned against the back of my seat. There was a thumbtack stuck on the back of my chair with tape. Circumstantial evidence was enough. Guilty without trial. Capital punishment. I furiously jumped up from my seat. And I tripped as if my feet were tangled up. My shoelaces had been tied together.
やるじゃねえか、サトコ！俺が寝ている間に気配を消してこれだけの上等をやってくれるんだよ。
The teacher came in right as I was about to pull off my shoes and tackle Satoko.
先生が来ましたよ、ケイチさん。着席遊ばせ。
Not caring one bit, I made her eat a flick to the forehead.
ケイチさんがいじめた。
前原くん、下級生をいじめてはいけません。謝りなさい。
I saw Sataka sting her tongue out at me. That little motherfucking brat.
ほら、前原くん。
へいへい、謝りますよ。さとこさん、ごめんなさい。
In any case, I apologized, even if it was in a completely insincere tone of voice. Damn her. I'll remember this!
ケイちゃん、その恨みは部活でね。着席。
I sat down after Mion told me to. She had switched to class representative mode. With the boring classes finished, school was finally over for the day. Now then, what should we do for our club today? Personally, I would like to play the deduction game one more time. I was hardly able to play it last time because of Oishi-san. Rena and I weren't even able to test out our strategy.
そうだね。今日こそケイチくんと2人で大勝利だよね。でもどうでしょうね。同じゲームを続けて2日やった試しはありませんし。ミーにお願いしてみたらどうでしょうです。
Mion looked over her shoulder as we made eye contact. She slowly tapped her palm with her fist as her face suddenly lit up.
いっけね。今日おじさんの手伝いの日だ。
Really? How suspicious!
悪いみんな、今日なし。
おじさんの手伝い？
I'm stalking her.
柄にもなく高校なやつだな。
悪い。ほんとすっかり忘れてた。じゃあごめんねみんな。今日はおじさんこれで帰るわ。
Mion left us with that and rushed off to the exit after snatching up her bag.
みーちゃんね、たまに街にあるおじさんのお店の手伝いに行くんだよ。
I thought she wasn't the type to get caught up in such bothersome stuff.
バイト代が出ると言ってましたですわ。結構なお小遣いになるらしいですの。
I see. She was able to pay for that mountain of games with what she saved up from there.
しかしそれはアルバイトと言うんじゃないのか？校則で禁止されてないか？
家事手伝いは除くと書いてありますです。
Is that what she's calling it? So what now? Pass on the club today?
じゃあ今日はこれで解散かな。
別に部長不在でもいいだろう。やろうぜ部活。
I opened the club locker and began searching for the deduction game from that ever-growing pile of
お、
games.
あった昨日の推理ゲーム。ようやくコツが分かってきたところで中断しちゃったからな。
At the very least, I want to repay Satoko for what she did during the afternoon break.
私は構いませんけど、レナさんとリカはどういたします？ケイチくんがどうしてもって言うならちょっとだけいいかな。僕はみんなが揃っての方がいいなと思いますです。
When she says it like that,
部活がないなら僕はお買い物に行きたかったのです。お醤油とかを買いに行きますですよ。あ、そうでしたわね。すっかり忘れてましたわ。
But you need soy sauce too?
ならレナも久しぶりに宝探しに行こうかな。
If I kept on trying to push them out there, it may make them realize that I had a trick up my sleeve. Oh well, I'll give up this
し
time.
このゲーム楽しみにしていたのにな。
Nah, we got more important matters to tend to anyway, man. I shuffled through the cards as if I was still caught up on it.
またの機会に叩きのめして差し上げましたよ。
犯人はサトコ、凶器はピストル。やはり貴様の仕業だったか。
なんですって？じゃあ
Satoko looked through the cards on the desk and stuck out 3 of them at me.
犯人はケイチ。凶器はロープで犯行現場はラウンジですわ。
ロープなんかいらねえ。
Sayori did.
このまま絞め殺してやら。
Well, it's good that I got that out of my system.
ケイチさん、覚えてらっしゃい。いっぱいいっぱいいたぶられましたですね。かわいそかわいそです。かいかい。
Everyone got ready to get back home. I also helped gather up the scattered cards. I suddenly paused. They were just the suspect cards, but I noticed something strange. Rena, Satoko, Rika, Keiichi, Mion, Satoshi. Satoshi? Not all the cards were made by us. Or at least every card besides this one has the name of a club member. Does this mean that this Satoshi fellow is a member? Or was? Was there someone in the class named Satoshi? I couldn't find anyone named Satoshi on the class roster stuck up on the wall.
ケイチくん、早く片付けよう。
Being rushed by Rena, I finished up quickly. Satoko and Rika-chan had already headed merrily for their lockers, so we were the only ones left in the classroom. Right now, Rena had already gotten her bag and was ready to leave.
レナ、やっぱりこのクラスからも転校で出て行っちゃった生徒って結構いるんだろ？
I tried asking Rena in a bit of a roundabout way. Rena made a troubled face and then answered.
うん。ひなみざわって田舎でしょ？転校していっちゃう人も時々いるよ。
じゃあ、このサトシってやつも転校してったのか？
I wonder what her reaction to this will be.
ごめん。よく知らないの。
I really don't believe you. There was a bit of pause, but the answer was pretty much immediate.
その、意地悪で言ってるんじゃないの。
It's for my best, isn't it?
ちょうど去年、レナが転校してきてから入れ替わりだったかな。だからあんまりお話ししたことないの。ごめんね。
I am not sure. Sorry. Her answer was a lot like when she refused to tell me about the murder at the dam. I was saddened by her denial and felt a bit of anger. I'm their friend, aren't I? Friends don't keep secrets from their friends, do they? Though I do appreciate that they kept that unsettling curse thing from me. But if everyone is worried about it, I would be rather worried about them. But at the end of the day, you're working with the police, my dude. That's what it means to be friends, right? For a moment, I wondered just what kind of face I was making just then, with these mixed feelings of sadness and annoyance.
ケイチくん、怖い顔してる。なんでだろう。なんでだろう。
It was probably exactly the kind of face Rena said it was. It appeared my grim expression had frightened her.
あ、ごめん。今日の部活、楽しみにしてたからさ。残念だっただけだよ。
I rustled Rena's hair.
帰ろうぜ。
Dragging that awkward mood with us, we headed home. I wonder why. Why have I been getting this dumb feeling lately? I didn't know anything. I had nothing to worry about. I was just enjoying my everyday life. My long outstretched shadow gave no answer to my naive inquiry.
ケイチくん、疲れてるのかな？かな？
Rena timidly questioned the reason behind my mood. I'm sure my expression made this situation even more
そう
unsettling.
か？
うん。今朝からケイチくん、なんだか元気ないよ。
Like I said, I didn't sleep anything last night.
風邪かな？
Maybe. Physically, I was pretty sure I was in perfect health. It may not seem like it, but I've had perfect attendance since elementary school. Rena continued on since I didn't give her an answer.
きっとケイチくん、引っ越しの疲れが今になってきたんだよ。前に住んでたところとは全然違うところだもん。
Yeah, man, call it a delayed jet lag.
いろいろ慣れたり覚えたり、疲れて当然だよ。
そうなのかな？
うん、絶対にそうだよ。レナも最初そうだったから、わかるんだよ。だよ。
Why did you say it like that in third person? Rena was also like that at first. Why didn't you say I was also like that at first? I wondered if Rena also experienced a slight bit of alienation last year that I was feeling right now. Thinking so, I felt that she was the only one who could understand how I
レ
felt.
ナがひなみ沢に転校してきた時の話が聞きたいな。どんなだった？
Feeling I had been drawn into the conversation, her face suddenly brightened.
ケイチくんと同じだよ。人の名前も村の中も全然わかんなかった。みーちゃんとかが親切にしてくれたから全然寂しくなかったけど、やっぱり心細かったよ。
Rena told me all the details of when she had moved here. All of her first acquaintances and surprises, worries and good times.
レナもサトコにやられたのかよ。
椅子に座ろうとしたら画鋲が置いてあったの。どっさり。そしたらそれを懐かしいな。
ミオンの部活にはいつ頃誘われたんだ？早速初日にか？
最初は部活なんてなかったんだよ。途中からできたの。放課後にみんなで残ってゲーム大会をやろうって言い出し。
そういえばミオン初代部長とか言ってたっけな。納得。
内緒だけどね、みーちゃん最初は弱かったんだよ。全然勝てなかった。
ミオンが？ちょっと想像つか。
自分で言い出した罰ゲームほとんど自分でやってたんだよ。本当に内緒だからね。
I can't believe Mion was like that. So she gradually transformed into a monster who used any means necessary to win during that time. Mion is at her best when she's fighting dirty.
みーちゃん以外ともちょっとずつお友達になれて、ケイチくんが引っ越してきてからかな。ようやくここに馴染めたって自覚したのは。
I guess Rena had also been left in the dark about Oyashiro-sama when she had just moved here. I guess when they finally told me about Oyashiro-sama, I would be considered one of them.
俺はいつになったら仲間だと認めてもらえるんだろうな。
You said that out loud.
なんて言ったの？
いや、ごめん、独り言。
ケイチくん変なの。
Rena was poking fun and laughing at me, and I couldn't help but laugh as well. But suddenly I stopped. Then, after making up my mind, I spoke.
なあ、レナ、みんなは俺に嘘や隠し事なんかしてないよな。
してないよ、全然。
嘘だろ。
Rena suddenly stopped. Her expression was cold and intense.
どういう意味だろう、ケイチくん。
Her tone was still the same cheery and light-hearted one as
し
before.
てるよな。俺に隠し事を。
After understanding what I meant, her expression grew even more intense. Seeing that face, I regretted saying something so rash. But she came back at me in a way I did not expect.
じゃあさ、ケイチくん。ケイチくんこそ、レナたちに嘘や隠し事をしてないかな。
What the fuck? Her tone did not change, but it was the first time I had seen this expression from Rena. With how her gaze pierced through me, I couldn't believe this was the same Rena.
してないかな。嘘や隠し事、してないかな。
You are. Secrets. She didn't actually say that part, but she looked as if she did. The incident with Tomitake-san and how I felt alienated from the group. Even without having to think about it, there were things I knew that I felt guilty about. But I didn't tell everyone about what happened with Tomitake-san to be considerate. I was keeping it a secret just the same way they didn't tell me about Oyashiro-sama. Then, aren't we even?
してないよ。嘘も隠し事も。
嘘だよ。
Her answer was instant and it shook me. Rena stared as if burrowing through me, watching me like a hawk.
どうして嘘だって。
ケイチくん、昨日の部活の時、先生に呼ばれて職員室に行ってたって言ったよね。レナは知ってる。ケイチくんは職員室になんか行かなかった。
I swallowed hard. It clearly wasn't a bluff. She knew what happened.
先生はお客さんが来たって言ったんだよね。でも昇降口ではお話ししてなかった。校門のところの車の中で話をしてたよね。知らないおじさんと。
Rena knew everything. She knew that I was called up by Oishi-san and that I heard about the incident with Tomitake-san as well. Did she know all of it?
誰？あのおじさん。
知らない人だよ。
知らない人がなんで圭一君に用があるの？
俺が知りたいよ。
じゃあ何の話をして
みんなとは関係のない話だよ。
It was a lie.
嘘だ！
Excuse me? Rena's scream echoed through the trees, sending frightened birds into the air. I could not exhale the deep breath I had just taken. No, it was like I wasn't allowed to exhale. It was here I first realized. The person in front of me, she wasn't Rena Ryugu. Then, who was it that was standing before me right now? Who had assumed Rena Ryugu's appearance? I held my breath for so long, I could feel myself suffocating.
ね？
And then she made a facial expression that Rena normally might have made. It didn't matter that was Rena's usual smile. It chilled me to the bone. She drew closer to me. I felt her breath against my face. It was not the least bit exciting. Whoever this was with Rena's face was going to chew my nose right off. I cowered as I imagined that. Then, she smirked as if she was able to see right through me.
圭一君に内緒や隠し事があるように、レナたちにだってあるんだよ。
It was Rena's usual smile, but her eyes were still like that of a hawk's. Bringing her face close enough to mine to almost bump into my nose, she kindly persuaded me. I could nod or shake my head. This person standing in front of me, this person who looked like Rena, frightened me to my core. I was terrified knowing that she could hear the sound of me swallowing nervously. After what felt like an eternity, after a long, empty silence, she finally spoke.
行こう。だいぶ涼しくなってきたよ。
It was Rena again. Smiling at me once more, she started walking as if nothing at all had happened. When I was released from her gaze, my legs gave out from under me and I slumped onto the ground. I wasn't able to lift a finger until Rena was out of sight.
あれは誰だったんだよ。
I felt cold. My body was drenched in sweat. I was finally able to form a coherent thought and ask myself once again, who the fuck was that person who looked like Rena Ryugu? I was out of it and couldn't bring myself to do anything until dinner except stare blankly into space. Was I terrified from Rena going off on me? No, that's not right. That was someone else that looked like Rena. Then who could it have been? It was a dreadful feeling, knowing that someone else, not Rena. Knowing that was someone else, not Rena. So tomorrow, I shouldn't have a problem talking to Rena like I usually do. What's wrong with you, G? That thought was strangely comforting. I concluded that I should just calm down and clear my head. Though those thoughts continued swirling around my mind. Finally, I returned to my senses as I heard my mother calling out to me from the bottom of the stairs.
ケイチ、本屋さんから電話よ。
Bookstore? I can't think of why they would be calling me. I went downstairs and picked up the receiver anyway.
夜分遅くに申し訳ありません。私、沖宮書房の大石と申します。
大石さん？大石さんじゃないですか。
ごめんなさい。ご両親が出られたので、本屋さんということにしておきました。警察ですって名乗ると、いろいろ気分を害されるでしょうしね。
Oishi-san was in his own way rather courteous. Even so, I didn't want my parents hearing me talk to the police. I brought the cordless phone with me as I dashed back up to my room on the second floor.
夜分遅くにすみませんですね。実は昨日渡した電話番号のメモ、あれ古い番号だ。本当に申し訳ない。これから申し上げる番号を控えておいてもらえますか。
あ、はい。どうぞ。
He gave me the number for his direct line as I wrote it down. I thought that was the end of it, but he began making pointless small talk, and it was pretty hard to hang up.
さて、どうでしょう、前原さん。何か変わったことはありましたか？
I see. This was the real reason. He really beat around the bush there. His adult conversational skills left me slack-jawed.
大石さんはここの地元の方ですか？
ねえ、そう。生まれも育ちも沖宮ですよ。
If he's from around here, he might know.
大石さん、鬼隠しって何のことか知ってますか？
それはですね、人が鬼にさらわれ、忽然といなくなってしまうことなんです。このあたり独特の言い回しですね。世間様で言う神隠しと同じ意味です。
Whereas my friends would say that they didn't know when I asked, this older man gave me a direct answer. It made me a bit happy that he answered directly without trying to hide anything.
hinamizawaは、前原さんにこんなこと言っていいんでしょうか。
もったいぶらないでくださいよ。大石さんが言わないなら俺も何も言いませんよ。
ああ、いやいや、そういう意味じゃないんですよ。ただその気を悪くされないかと思いましてね。実はですね、hinamizawaはその昔、鬼の住む里って呼ばれて恐れられていたんですよ。
鬼？鬼って地獄にいる金棒を持った
というよりは人食い鬼ですな。里に降りてきて人をさらって食い散らかしてしまう。なんて怖い昔話があるんですよ。
They can still be carnivores with a pitchfork, motherfucker. Demon snatching up people is what this Onikakushi really means.
たたりと鬼隠しは一緒に起こるって言ってましたけど、どういうことですか？
I already knew about the mysterious deaths happening 5 years in a row, but I didn't know there were people disappearing for those 5 same years.
たたりと鬼隠しが必ず一緒に？それは初めて聞きました。そうなんですか、前原さん。
Listen, man, do you have any records of someone called Satoshi?
それは俺が聞きたいですよ。レナとミオンが話してたんです。お社様のたたりなら必ずたたりと鬼隠しが起こるって。
Oishi-san began hemming and hawing on the other end of the receiver. Maybe something about that came to mind?
前原さん、最初の事件ご存知ですよね。バラバラ殺人。
ええ、6人の犯人のうち1人はまだ逃走中なんですよね。
例えばそれ、逃走中じゃなく鬼隠しにあったんじゃないでしょうかね。
Huh? It was an outrageous hypothesis from Oishi-san. The incident 4 years ago was the particularly ghastly one. The police already knew the perpetrators, so they posted tons of wanted posters with his face on them. They staked out various locations and investigated every possible escape route he had. But after 4 years, there wasn't even a hint of where he might be. Unless the police were completely incompetent. Even if it was an outrageous hypothesis, I simply couldn't laugh it off.
じゃあその翌年の事故はどうです？誘致派の男と妻が一緒に事故死したんですよね。
実はですね、正式には事故死したのは夫だけなんです。妻は死体が上がりませんでしたが、現行法では死体が発見されない限り行方不明扱いなんですよ。
At the time of the incident, with the river below the cliff being muddy rapids, the police divers had searched every branch off the main stream of the river for dozens of miles. But in the end, they were not able to find her body.
でも死体が見つからないだけで亡くなったんですよね。鬼隠しとは違うんじゃないですか？
死体が出ない以上、亡くなったとは言えません。法律で定めた年月が過ぎるまで生存扱いなんです。
I'm not sure if it was right to call that being deemed away. The wife is still missing. At least that part was reality.
3年目はどうなんですか？神主は病死、妻は自殺ですよ。
前原さん、 実はね、これも全く同じなんですよ。
The wife had supposedly thrown herself into the bottomless marsh deep into the forest of Hinamizawa. Meaning, it's all circumstantial evidence. They simply found her suicide note in front of the marsh. A diver was able to recover a few of her articles, but they weren't able to find a body. The investigative headquarters believed that she had faked her own death and was still alive
こ
somewhere.
れらを鬼隠しと呼んでいいかちょっとわかりませんがね、前原さんの言う通り、確かに毎年一人
今年の事件では富武さんの連れの女の人が行方不明。じゃあ去年の主婦の撲殺事件はどうです？誰か行方不明になりましたか？確か犯人は逮捕されたんですよね。
ええ、逮捕されてます。以前に逮捕歴もあるやつでしてね、別件で取り調べ中に犯行を自供してます。ですがですね、犯人逮捕からしばらくして被害者宅の子供が行方不明になったんです。犯罪に巻き込まれたのかどうなのか、現在も捜査してます。
Might this child have been Satoshi? What was the child's name?
だって犯人は捕まったんですよね。それともその仲間が？
さあ、多分単独犯だと思います。もっとも今では確かめようもないんですよ。実はその男、取り調べ中に拘置所内でお亡くなりになっちゃいまして。
You guys had one job. He swallowed the spork and choked to death. It's not known whether it was an accident or
つまり
suicide.
過去5年間必ず死者と行方不明者が。
そうなりますね。私も驚いていますよ。こんな共通項には気づきませんでした。
I couldn't believe that this could help lead to the closing of those incidents. It was just something they had in
例え
common.
ば鬼隠しにあって失踪した人には何か共通点があるとか。
Oishisa mumbled as she seemed to be thinking about it. So I summarized the events.
1年目はダムの作業員、2年目は誘致派の男の妻、3年目は神主の妻、4年目は被害者宅の子供で、5年目は交際相手かな。特につながりはなさそうだし。
1年目はともかく、妻とか交際相手とか、そういう人が目立ちますな。
It does seem like there are a lot. Then that means the fourth year's victim child was different. It would have really stood out if they were all married couples, except it's not just married couples, but parents and children as well. Come to think of it, I believe Tomitake-san also told me the younger brother is alive and has moved, if I recall correctly.
4年目に行方不明になった子供ってどんなだったんですか？
おとなしい感じの方だったらしいです。
I don't give a fuck how he was, man. Give me a name.
年はあなたの一つ上です。名前は北条聡さん。
Fucking called it. Hojo?
サトシ？
I remember that name. Didn't they tell me Satoshi transferred out last
あなた
year?
の学校に去年まで通っていました。話を聞いていませんか？
Come to think of it, when I transferred in, I believe they said my seat belonged to a recent transfer student? Then, where I sat once belonged to the one who was demoned away. It was his seat? I recall the cold sensation that came from that disc. It made my hair stand on end. This string of mysterious deaths, no, Oyashiro-sama's curse. I now knew how it connected to me. That chilling sensation, it was the feeling of Oyashiro-sama caressing the back of my neck.
お社様のたたりか。
Could Oyashiro-sama's curse really exist? In all honesty, I was beginning to believe it, and I was scared. That was why I wanted to say it was a plot crafted by man and not the work of a curse. But the more I dug into it, the less likely it seemed. No, the more I dug, the more mysterious it became. If I kept digging, eventually, I would reach the point where I would learn something I really shouldn't know. To either be none the wiser or to seek an answer I may regret. Which one would I be happier with? Maybe it will be me next time. My execution could only be delayed for 1 year. That was when I remembered. Rena. Rena said she may be the next victim of the curse. Okay, let's dissect this for a second here before we move on. What if the one that's being demoned away is the killer? Because I mean, it always happens in duos, right? One gets killed, one gets demoned away. What if? It makes sense. What if the one who is demoned away kills the victim first and then fucks off somewhere? At which point they're no longer in control of themselves. I'm guessing.
竜宮レナさんがですか？
Hello?
去年転校されてきた前原さんのクラスメートですよね。女の子には刺激の強い事件ばかりです。怖がるのも無理ないんじゃないでしょうかね。
It wasn't that. She said it might be her next. She said it in a way that made me think that she had a concrete reason behind
もっ
it.
と確信じみたものだったように思います。なんていうのか、その。
She was frightened. Her sudden change in demeanor. That someone who looked like Rena but was not Rena. That might be unrelated. All the strange things that I felt from Rena today came back to
そ
me.
うですか。ではこちらでも少し調べてみます。前原さんも少し竜宮さんの様子に注意してあげてください。
それは、レナを見張れってことですか？
He's saying, keep doing what the fuck it is that you're doing.
そんな意味ではありませんよ、前原さん。お友達が次の被害者にならないよう少し気にしてあげてほしいということです。
At that moment, just as my mouth was agape because I was so impressed with his mature, clever way with words, a sudden knock at the door sent my heart racing. In an instant, I had pointlessly covered up the end of the receiver.
ケイチ、ちょっとここを開けてくれ。
On the other side of the door, I heard my father's oddly upbeat voice. What could it be? It's so late.
すみません、親父が来ました。今夜はこれくらいでいいですか？
夜分遅くに本当に申し訳ありませんでしたね。何か分かりましたら教えてください。こちらも進展がありましたらご報告しますよ。では失礼します。
ケイチ、早く開けてくれ。
Hayaka yourself, man! You're closer to the door.
父さん、両手が塞がってるんだ。
Put it the fuck down, whatever it is. The fuck is that? I had stayed in the same position while on the phone the whole time, so my joints were aching. When I opened the door, I saw my father was standing there with a tray. On that tray, cookies and 2 cups of black tea, a fairly fancy spread for our household. There was even sugar and lemon slices on the side, everything you could ask for. This was quite the show of hospitality.
何？父さん。それ、何のつもりだよ。
もう、はぐらかすなよ、ケイチ。入るぞ。
Dad was in high spirits and had a smirk on his face. But for my entire life, I've never seen him act this hospitable. What had gotten into him?
で、何の話をしてたんだ？
Sir? I jumped. It's not something I had to keep from my father. But how could I explain to him that I was talking to a detective, I'm assuming he was, this late at night?
別に何も。友達だよ。
電話の話じゃなくて。
Then what?
来てたんだろう、今。
Who?
レナちゃんが。
What?
来てないよ。
もう、ごまかさなくたっていいぞ。さっきレナちゃんが遊びに来てたじゃないか。だいぶ話し込んでるみたいだったから、お茶でもって思ったら、すれ違いだったんだよ。
What the fuck do you mean we were chatting away? I had no idea what Dad was talking about. Is this Dad? This is not Dad! We need to get the fuck out of here! But a cold sweat dripped down my back. Don't eat any of those fucking cookies and don't drink that tea. We are in danger.
どのくらい話し込んでたかな？
レナちゃんが2階に上がったのが半くらいだったから小1時間くらいかな。
Did you make these cookies from scratch?
2階に上がったの父さん見たの？
ああ見たよ。圭一の部屋は階段を上がって奥の扉だよって声もかけた。
Rena came to my house about an hour ago. Dad met her at the door and called out to me on the second floor. I probably didn't hear him because I was so focused on my conversation with Oishi-san. Wait. She never got into my room. But she's been listening the entire fucking time. I didn't reply, but he knew I was in my room, so he had her come inside. Then told her my room was on the second floor. She thanked my dad and went upstairs, but they never confirmed that she went into my room. Then about an hour passed. Man, do we have any fucking ventilation shafts in this bitch? She might be hiding up there. She passed by my dad just as he was bringing up tea and left. She came upstairs and about an hour passed. Then passed by my dad and returned home. Then after she came upstairs and until she left, where was Rena? There is only a short hallway between my room and the stairs, meaning Rena had, for about an hour, in the hall. Nah. She couldn't have been standing in front of the door all that time. The door to my room wasn't particularly thick. You could easily hear everything being said inside. All of the unsettling and unguarded things I spoke to Oishi-san about began rushing through my head.
お父さん、あまりからかっちゃダメよ。それよりアトリエを片付けて。またこぼすわよ。
Mom yelled at Dad from downstairs. Dad left the tray with me and went downstairs with a disappointed chortle. I followed my dad out of the room with my eyes. I looked down at the floor around the hallway where Rena might have stood all that time. Just now, as I was talking to Oishi-san, with my back turned, Rena was standing a mere 6 feet away the whole time? All that time in this dimly lit doorway. I thought you said it was cordless, son of a bitch. What did she see? What did she hear? For what reason? As the stream from 2 teacups ominously wafted and twisted, the aroma of black tea filled my room. Well, we found the Monica of our game anyway. July 1st, 1982. To Departments 1 through 12. Prefectural Police Headquarters. Director General whatever the fuck ever. To the Chief Constable and all facility managers. Regarding cases situated in Hinamizawa Village, notice. As cases in Shishibone City, Hinamizawa Village has been reported by certain sections of mass media. It has drawn global attention, which is causing serious repercussions for the local residents. This has indeed become a very serious situation. To protect the livelihood and prosperity of the residents, the following notice has been issued. 1. Designate the following criminal investigations as classified. Okinomiya Station 1982 Case Number X. Hinamizawa Housewife Murder dated June XX. Okinomiya Station 1982 Case Number X. Hinamizawa Village Student Disappearance dated June XX. 2. Non-disclosure of information. Okinomiya Station 1979 Case Number X. Hinamizawa Village Site Foreman Murder dated June XX. Shira Station 1980 Case Number X. Let me guess, June. Shirakawa Natural Park Falling Incident dated June XX. Okinomiya Station 1981 Case Number X. Hinamizawa Village Shinto Priest Wife's Disappearance dated June XX. 3. Requesting self-restraint from each organization concerning the release of sensitive information. Please see attached reference materials 1, 2, and 3. Management XX Prefecture Police Headquarters. Internal line quadruple X. Police Affairs Department XXX. And with that, we are indeed going to call it an episode. Next episode, we're gonna see what the mood is at school, I'm guessing. In case we survive the night, because Rena might be here, man. Rena might be here. Either way, I'll see you guys next episode. I'm out of here. Love y'all. Deuces.